Hi, colleagues, and welcome to the next episode of DINCast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Merici Vinton, who is the co-founder and MD of Ada's List, where today we're going to be talking about women in tech, women in digital, and all the issues that they have trying to break into the top leadership spaces there. So, Merici, welcome along.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It's
great to be in my living room, but also on Zoom.
Well, it's great. So, because this is a really, really key issue, and I think it's particularly in the social housing space, which I work with my members. I'm keen to find out a bit more on your views around this. But for those people who don't know you, do you want to just sort of introduce yourself and tell us about your leadership journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hello, everyone. It's great to be here. So I run Ada's List. We're a global community of women or people who identify as women and non-binary people who work in and around technology. There's a lot of broad disclaimers there, but these days, anybody works in tech pretty much. So our members include developers, lots of data scientists, and then product managers, product designers, social media experts, and some lawyers, which I think is great because I think that anyone that is writing the laws, writing the policy should also understand technology. I started Ada's List about 6 years ago after moving to London, and I just kind of found there wasn't really a place. I didn't really feel like I knew where to find a job. I didn't know where to find friends. I didn't really know where to go. I didn't really feel like anybody had my back in case I had some questions. And so we launched Ada's List in 2013. And since then, it's grown completely organically.
And prior to that, what was sort of, your journey to sort of come across here? Because clearly, that's not a UK accent and that.
Oh, good point. Yeah. My journey is totally random. So I will try to not be random. So I grew up in Nebraska in the middle of nowhere on a ranch. I went to a one-room school. I rode a horse to school. I doubt you knew that before this call. Yeah. Actually, I remember we got into trouble because we got into this thing where we ride the horses during recess, and that's like a huge liability for a number of reasons. So I remember having to stop doing that and getting in trouble with my dad. But anyway, so after that, I really got into politics, and that became I've always been into politics, and so went to college, got a bunch of internships, and then decided I didn't like politics and I wanted to leave politics. Got my MBA, and then I joined the Obama campaign. So that period of not being interested in politics lasted for approximately a few hours probably. And so I joined the Obama campaign in 2008 as a field organizer, and then I joined the digital team, which was my start in digital and technology. And so ran the digital for the state of North Carolina in the Obama campaign, and which we won. So oversaw the website and Twitter and Facebook, everything, email, text message, and moved to Washington, D.C. This is my tech journey. So I moved to Washington, D.C. Obama talked about in the campaign, he talked about Google for government, and the way I interpreted that and the way he talked about it in the campaign was what are frontline services that are delivered over the internet in easy to use ways. So imagine if you need to get your driver's license. And I know over here, you guys have that. In the States, it's still really difficult. And it varies state by state and county by county where you get your driver's license. So imagine if it was easy to do it, no matter where you lived. Imagine if it was easy to apply for, or even file your taxes online. So anyway, I moved to DC to do that and started the technology team for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau with Elizabeth Warren in 2010. And then I moved to London.
I mean, that must have been an amazing experience, being in the heat of the whole sort of Obama journey. And, what do you sort of learn from those experiences that you've brought with you to sort of Ada's List?
Oh man, so some of the best things about the Obama campaign that have stuck with me and actually have made any other job difficult is the thing about a an election is that there's a deadline. And everyone has the same deadline. It's not like you can negotiate it. It's not up for conversation. And so everyone is singularly focused in the same direction. And that's wonderful. The other thing that the campaign did a really great job of is really tight messaging control. And that's a weird benefit in life. But actually, I think having a message that can be communicated in a number of ways is really helpful. And that's really helped me, actually, because a lot of my job, and even before I ran Ada's List full time, it's always good to be able to communicate your messages in a number of different ways, be they clients or helping your clients communicate Ada's List. You've got to think about email. You've got to think about what you're saying. So that's a random one, but that was really great. Working remotely. So I was in North Carolina and I had a team there, but also on the digital team, our team was based out of Chicago. So I'm working with the field team, but also like the working remotely. So there were actually a lot of things that I still look back to. That's probably not the exciting stuff you were talking about. But those are like the actual pragmatic skills that really I still use, actually.
And so you've brought those skills across. You've established 7 years ago, sort of Ada's List. It's grown massively into this global community. So within that sort of 7 years, what do you think have been sort of the achievements so far in terms of getting across about women in tech?
Yeah, so I think our achievements. So we're a very decentralized and non-hierarchical community. And I think that's important to mention our values. We're not an app, although you can use it on an app. We're not, a Facebook group. We're a community where anybody can comment or ask a question. And that's a little thing, but I think it really matters because it's meant that people who don't feel like they had a voice can suddenly ask 7,500 women globally a question or get some advice on a situation and they get help. And so I think our biggest twofold, our biggest has been like A, providing a space where people have each other's back, but B, also kind of helping bring people on a journey. When we first started, nobody wanted to send an email. Especially there's some different cultures, like in America, a lot of us love a good old reply all email chain. Here, in other parts of the world, that's not like the coolest thing. So like kind of getting people comfortable and navigating the weird cultural differences that are minor but big in an email community that I think we've really taken people on a journey with, like around their confidence and speaking up. And
so what do you see as the challenges then, in particular for getting into tech? Because obviously there's lots of debate about sort of, women rising to sort of senior executive roles across lots of industries. Why do you think technology then has been particularly difficult for women to break into?
So also before coronavirus, there's an event where I saw a professor who's done a lot of research around how that conditioning starts at age 2. The conditioning to think where you're kind of told over and over and over and over again that science and STEM and engineering and mathematics is for the smart kids. And if you're from if you're from a family that doesn't really value education, but you might not know you're smart, it's been made an unachievable thing for so many. It's presented as something that's very binary, it's in a box. And so what that does is that it attracts people who think like that. This is her research. It's not mine. I wish I was that smart. And so it attracts people. It's, you go what you're attracted to. It's only presented in this very black and white manner, binary manner. But really technology, coding, product design, some of the most creative spaces. You're literally building new worlds every day. You have an opportunity to, if you do government technology and government data, you have an opportunity to build a new market based on the data that you release. And so I think that language and that positioning starts really young, where only the smart kids who are good at these things can do that. And that's not just about women, but that's just like how it's positioned. And then I think that's how it starts. And then over time, it gets reinforced. And then over time, you get into gender stuff, which is like, well, girls aren't good at math. And I've heard that. It's crazy.
And
That's
so,
a long answer to a basic question. Did that answer your question?
well, it starts us off in terms of the discussion about, what can be done now and what is Ada's Lisp in particular sort of trying to do, because you've got a mission to sort of create change, but in particular to scale, because you could be here for 100 years trying to sort of get there. And I just wondered, what is the approach within the network about actually, how are you going about making change at scale?
So it's been super interesting very recently, because I think that we've been a bit more proactive in our approach to change. And most recently we're expanding our language. It's always been there in our agenda, but now we're being more explicit and intentional about it, around not being explicitly anti-racist, about being explicitly like trying to break down the structures and challenge the structures that are around us in our work environments. And so that, I think, is something that is going to be fun. And I also, it's not fun, it's necessary, but it's fun in the sense that people have really taken to it and they're ready for it and they're hungry for it. And I think that's how we scale. I think we scale more when we're not just talking about women in technology, but we're talking about the systems and the hierarchies and the racist structures that keep women and people of color down, especially women of color. And I think that's how we scale our impact, because we can't just tackle one thing. It's got to be the systems that are all around us all the time.
So if you were talking to sort of my members in the social housing space, and you were talking to the executive team or boards and things like that, are there any sort of practical first steps you'd be saying, well, actually, if you're really serious about this is something you can practically do?
Every organization's on a different starting journey. And I think that the first advice that I would have for a board or a C-suite client is very straightforward, which is, where are you on your journey? Because if there's not that self-awareness, you're not going to make any progress. And that's what we're seeing time and time again. Like, if you're not self-aware as to who you are as an organization, that you've built intentionally or unintentionally, like a lot of times this is unconscious or unintentional, how you've got to have that acknowledgement, and then you can build from there and try to solve some of the more systemic problems in your organization.
Yeah. So are there any particular sectors or companies that you admire and you think, actually, you guys, you're really getting this right?
I'm over admiring companies. Like I think, had you asked me that a few months ago, I probably would have done some research and come up with somebody that I admired. But I'm over that, because basically what we're saying is, like, do I admire a company that should be doing the basics? Like, am I admiring a company that should just have its stuff together in terms of how it hires people, how it retains people, how it treats its employees? And so I'm kind of over that. And I just think I now have different expectations, which is, I don't really admire you for doing what you've done. And what I've really appreciated, and it's unfortunate that it took the murder of George Floyd to make this happen. Beyond unfortunate, but like to see a lot of these ideal companies having some sort of reckoning around, it's actually not that great for your employees, it's great, because I think a lot of the companies that are still dealing with the fallout would have possibly been on lists of, and are on lists of, the best places to work.
Yeah. And so in terms of, maybe it's not sort of, companies then, but I mean, who do you look up to sort of as it perhaps individuals that we could go away and sort of read about and think, that person is leading a good life, or is leading the way that, I would like to work for them?
Yeah, that's great. I think right now I've done what I'm trying to do is a lot of listening, a lot of reading, and just paying attention to other voices. And so that's like, that has been, so where I would start is I would be looking for movements in your countries or in your cities that are talking about social justice, that are talking about, because again, I don't think you can solve an office issue without at least being aware of the issues and the systems around it. I know I'm getting deep into this right now, but like, I think we all want to find the right answer and the right person to follow and the right book to read. But actually, like, you got to find the right book for you, and you've got to find the right person for you. And there is no right person. And as long as you're listening to different voices, like, that's how you kind of come up with those answers.
Okay.
Did that
No,
make any sense?
no,
I'm really, yeah. I might have got a little bit into that, but that's kind of how I view organizational change at this point. At this point in history, that's where I'm at.
and that's absolutely fine. I think, this is about you and,
Yeah.
your values and what sort of drives you then. So I'm just wondering, from either the work that you've done with Ada's List, or the people that you've interviewed and you've met, or your time with the Obama campaign, what's the one piece of sort of business advice that you've been given that actually is still with you, that you refer back to, or actually you think, this is still very, very relevant?
So when I worked on the tech team for the CFP, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, I had a colleague who, she used this awful analogy, and I'll use it because it stuck with me. And somebody told her, like, you just need to get the thing. You just need to, you just need to push it off the desk. You just need to do it. You just need to, and I think he actually put a pencil on the desk and he pushed it off. And she told me that analogy. You just need to get it off your desk. You just need to do that thing. And that that is stuck with me on everything. So if I feel like I'm getting stuck or I'm not moving fast enough, I'll find it's not about speed, but I'm not moving I don't feel like I'm getting the things I need to get done.
Yeah.
I'll find a thing to do, to push off the desk. And it might not be the most important thing, but it helps me feel like I've got some momentum. And that's helped me both in my career, like, so I've only been running Ada's List full time so for about 7 months now. And before that, I worked as a consultant. And even in my consulting career, that really helped me. And now in my Ada's List career as a business owner, that really helps me. Like, what are the little things I need to do? I think the other helpful thing, and it's an obvious thing, but one of my kind of advisors said, like, it's also okay to not have all the answers. You need to listen to your community right now, and that has been really helpful. So, like, every time kind of trying to respond and listen, and sometimes they're not saying anything, which is fine, and so then I'll say a bunch of stuff, or we'll host a bunch of events, or we'll do something, and it's giving people something to react to that then I can react to. And so kind of always trying to find the right ways to touch base, and see what's working has been really helpful.
So, I mean, you've mentioned, and we've talked previously, you are now running the Ada's List as a business, and, you took over it just before sort of COVID struck. You've got sort of a young family and things like that. So this is high pressure. How are you taking care of yourself to make sure that you're at your best for your members and the people that you work with?
So the only advice that I have is exercise. That is the thing. I am very lucky to have a partner that has recognized when I don't work out, I'm not my best self. And as a partner, as a business owner, as a mom, and so we've worked that into our schedules. And so I pretty much do something every day. And sometimes that's like a 20-minute walk, and sometimes that's like lifting weights in my house. I have all types of hand weights now after a few months of this. Sometimes it's yoga. So exercise and And there was something else. Not drinking every day. That's the other thing that's helped. Just
You didn't mention the drugs either, but we'll leave that. So.
Don't worry. But yeah, not like that's just to put it out there. Like, it's okay to not drink every day.
Okay.
I know in the early days of the coronavirus, it was like, okay, I don't know how to deal with all this stress. But now I'm like, wait, this is going to go on longer than, a couple of weeks. So.
Absolutely. Well, look, Merici, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, finding out about Ada's List. I know you're going to be speaking at our annual sort of Disruption Summit in the autumn, so we'll find out more about you there, and the members can come and ask you their own questions as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's been great.